Welcome to the 707, a weekly half-hour program produced by KRCB, a service of NorCal Public Media. The 707 features voices and stories from your community, stories that examine memory and truth, and stories that show how we are connected to each other. I'm your host, Michelle Marques. If you've lived in Sonoma County for a while, you're probably familiar with photojournalist Erik Castro, seeing his byline on photos in the local paper. Recently, he sent me a link to watch his new documentary called Creating a Photojournalist.
I don't know where it came from, but I've always had this desire to say something about the world around me. I always felt that life is beautiful, no matter how painful it can be.
So I kind of don't want to talk to you about this documentary until you've had a chance to experience it first, because this film made me cry within the first 5 minutes, and I stopped it midway through, compelled to rewatch a clip. When Castro joined me at our studios to talk about it, I had to tell him about how it affected me. I watched it last night, and I just had to kind of sit with it for a little bit afterwards and think about it, because there was so much that came up and reminded me of things in my life too, like making a film this personal. How did the inspiration come?
I basically started photojournalism, my career, as the industry was declining, and so it always felt precarious. I think every 2 years I always thought, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to do this. But it went 18 years out here, and because I had 2 kids, I ended up staying here the whole time, covering basically Sonoma County. And so these last 5 years were really tough, and I knew I couldn't do this job anymore. As much as I dearly loved it, I couldn't afford to be a photojournalist anymore. So I was looking for a way out and really struggling. And last year, I got an offer to do a talk about journalism in Petaluma for the Petaluma Arts Center. And while I was preparing for it, I was editing my mother's old films to do an intro. And it was like a switch clicked in my head, and this pouring of emotion came out. It was overwhelming, to say the least.
Yeah. It is a really emotional film, especially at the beginning, to watch you and your siblings and your parents, and you talk about capturing this youth and their skin on film.
My parents were lifelong film lovers, and my mom, when she was younger, she wanted to be a film star. So it wasn't a surprise that my mom, back in 1963, would purchase a 8mm film camera. They put all our young bodies in this celluloid time capsule. I edited that beginning opening of the film first and realized, wow, this was going to be a 5-minute introduction about my life. And then I realized, I think I have a film here. I don't know what it is. But all this stuff's coming out. I'm re-examining 20 years of my life. And it's almost like I wanted to say one last thing about the industry, because I knew I was leaving it. You know, my daughter, who appears in it quite frequently, turned 19 and was moving to San Francisco. And while I was making this film, I was driving her 2 or 3 times a week to San Francisco to her restaurant job. And I would stay in the city, and I would edit the film in the public library system.
Oh, wow.
I was going to the Potrero Hill Public Library every night, basically every other night, and editing this film.
Wow.
While my daughter waited tables and was preparing to move to San Francisco. She was waiting for her lease to begin. So there was a lot of that. We were talking in the car a lot on those drives. And so I just let the film unfold as what you saw last night. It wasn't anything I felt like I had any control over. I knew I wanted to tell stories about some of these people that you see in the film, like Chris Polito, the gang member that I filmed, made a short film 14 years ago. Kai Guse, the young homeless teen, I became very close to. And I just felt his story was really important, to hear too.
Yeah.
But in the end, I never thought this was going to be a film festival film. It was just something I was going to make, maybe show to some local galleries and have something for my kids and family to see. But I never thought it would have this kind of these legs and have this attention and win these awards and all these festivals. It's been overwhelming, to say the least.
sort of at the end of the film, you talk about getting an envelope with some photos. And it felt like watching this movie felt like finding someone's box of photos. Like it was just these clips and these images and videos from your life. So tell me about sort of assembling this, because there's so much in it.
There really is a lot. And I think that's why I was nervous about the film. I felt like there's so much in it. Even when I finished it, I didn't know what the film was quite about. Mm-hmm. But I knew it dealt with memory, and memory is something I've always been fascinated with. And this entire film deals with memory, where it's memories of my childhood. Even the documentary figures, the characters in it my subjects, they're talking about their past. The entire film kind of evolves in this idea of memory and what it means and how there are our own individual truths. And I just found it fascinating that I spent essentially 20 years of my life trying to document truth, when all along I always felt that we kind of invent our own truths. And I always really embraced that as a photojournalist. I never really felt I was seeking absolute truth. I was more interested in what people wanted to invent about themselves, and felt a real love for that way of telling stories. I mean, my father tells an amazing story in this film that happened in 1936 or something, when he was a little boy. I don't know if he really remembers all those details, but they're exact. It's an incredible narrative, and it's a window into the way he saw his childhood. To me, I think that's what the film was. It's a film about memory and how it bleeds into a person's life and eventually into this person who became a photojournalist.
Yeah, I actually wrote that down here, because it does seem like, with any piece of art, the person who's viewing it, the person who's experiencing it, is going to put their own spin on it, right?
Yeah.
But it feels different to think about an image or a video, because we feel like there should be some more truth in that. But in this movie, the way that you explore those images, even things that, that photo of you as a child who was sick that your mother took, I want you to tell me about that photo. But there's different interpretations of what that is throughout the entire movie.
In the photo, my lips look swollen, my hair's disheveled, and I'm clutching a teddy bear. She said I had gotten such a bad flu that she and my dad thought I was going to die. So they decided to take a photograph so they'd have at least one last picture of me.
I never knew the story until just, I guess, a few years after she passed away. But she'd given me that picture the last time I saw her. And so I hung on to it for many years, and a sibling of mine told me that story. But all the other siblings have various beliefs of what that picture really is. I think it became a symbol because it didn't matter to me what the truth was in that picture. What I loved about it was the mystery and the belief that, my mother had this deep love for us, not just the way that she nurtured us, but the way that she photographed us and filmed us. And I know without those 8mm films that she created from 1963 to 1975, I wouldn't have made this film. They were really the catalyst for digging into this idea of stories and memory.
You talk about in the film how influential your parents were in terms of supporting you and saying, yeah, try this, do what you want with your life, have fun with it. And also both your mother, especially being fascinated by film and camera. So did that sort of influence the direction you wanted to take in your life?
Absolutely. It's the whole reason why I struggled in photojournalism, because I always wanted to be a filmmaker. I never wanted to be a photographer. But it's so expensive to make films, especially when I started in the 90s. You still needed a lot of money. You needed a crew. There was no iPhones and laptops that you can just make a film. So I always struggled with that, and all my influences were filmmakers. But it was definitely my parents giving me early exposure to film, which made me really the kind of person I grew up to be.
That's lovely. I also really like that even though you talk about this photo fairly early on in the film, we don't see it until the end. So
I like that too because it plays with memory and with creativity and with the viewer's interpretation of what that photo looks like. So I had already figured out what that photo looked like before I saw it.
Oh, that's so great. I was, it's funny because I had a version where I showed the photo in the beginning.
Yeah.
And there was only one person that I was working with, a friend of mine in Seattle. He would help me edit the text. But I did a version where I showed the front, and he said, "No, you can't do that." And I kind of knew that I shouldn't, but I was just testing it to see if it would ruin the film. He says, "It ruins the film because he said what you just said. It doesn't allow us to kind of imagine it for a while and to play with it in our heads."
Right.
I even wondered if I should even show it or not, and just let it be a mystery for the audience because I describe it in detail early on. Yeah, it's just a mystery in the film that is unanswerable, and I don't think that ruins the film.
Mm-mm.
But it allows, I think that, like you said, the viewer to kind of chew on it for a while. Yeah, it was, it's a strange, object that I have that's very dear to me.
That's Erik Castro, writer and director of the new documentary, Creating a Photojournalist. This is the 707 on KRCB.
KRCB is Sonoma County's NPR station, featuring the voices, sounds, and culture that make our home unique. From the heartwarming tales of postcards,
our grandmother was the founder of Juneteenth in Sonoma County,
to the Arts Briefs series shining a spotlight on the incredible youth in the arts scene.
Mariachi can express everything that you feel.
And farm tales.
We live in this beautiful area that allows all forms of success in agriculture.
Your stories, your station. KRCB 104.9, Sonoma County's NPR station.
Welcome back to the 707 on KRCB. I'm your host, Michelle Marques. I'm chatting with Erik Castro, writer and director of Creating a Photojournalist. In the documentary, he revisits past projects, including one called New Skin, in which men are removing gang tattoos.
When I got that first tattoo, I still remember.
I figured I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life, and they're gonna stay on my body forever, no matter how old I get.
Castro created a book out of duct tape and added his photos along with handwritten text.
And then it became part of what this film is about, this idea, or the way I make documentaries is that they're very unconventional. Like a duct tape book is not a typical way that a photojournalist tries to tell a story.
Yeah.
But for me, all those rules about photojournalism, I think from the very beginning, I was always trying to break them or bend them or twist them. Not break rules of engagement with the public and lying to them. I mean breaking rules of how truth can be told. And truth was told on those sheets of duct tape. I mean, those words that I was writing were words that those individuals who were trying to desperately start a new life, leaving a gang life, those were real thoughts, real feelings. But it was wonderful to see Chris in the film because I called him and I hadn't talked to him in almost a decade or so. He said making that short film with me had changed his life. He said he would be honored to play some role in this film.
Yeah. That interview was great, and it was wonderful to see the reaction of his daughter on his shoulder, just sort of looking, "Hey, Dad, look, that's you." And you're like, wow, did it hurt?
And that young girl idea, young girl dad, is a motif in the film.
Right.
It really is. It reflects the way. I think that's the main reason why I wanted to see Chris is I had such a wonderful time being a stay-at-home father. And I remember interacting with both my kids, but especially my daughter. She's very unusual. She's at that age, she was very precocious and creative. And she became a collaborator really early on at age 6.
Wow.
With me on the work I was doing. And I just kind of took that as part of my role as a parent with her. I was her dad, but also her collaborator on stuff. Yeah, and she was highly influential in how I developed as a photographer out here.
There's a series of images of Neela with the wind blowing through her hair and her strands are sort of going across her face. And you're talking about images and memory and truth. And then I don't realize it until it's gone through maybe twice that I'm seeing the same images, like it's rotating through. And I really liked that because I thought, oh, this is new. And like, why am I remembering something that I just saw? Oh, it's because it's the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, like that video was really a video. It was almost like a nurturing tool. If I had a bad day or if I felt just something missing, I would watch that video. And I even mentioned this in the film. I created that video of Neela as like, if I were to remember what was happening there, this is how I'd want to see it in my head. It's literally like trying to show the inside of my head, that video. And I've probably watched that video 1,000 times. I thought it was just personal video that only helped me. But when I did my first show out here for Harvest Workers in a little gallery, Christy Marks Gallery in Santa Rosa, and I showed that video, that clip, it's a minute long, and in the audience, and an old gentleman was in tears.
It's really moving.
I was just like, wow. Like, I thought I only thought this was for me. I didn't think anybody would get it.
Yeah.
And so that's why that clip is so important, because it really was how I was functioning at those times. I was having a hard time finding work, getting work. Those videos really helped me feel good about my life.
Yeah, I had to go back and watch it. Like, I stopped the movie to go back and watch it.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're meant for. Like this film, I didn't even know if I like people to watch them from beginning to end because I think it unfolds that way. But there's so much in it that it is a film you need to kind of see again a few times because there's almost too much in it. And that was intentional. I wanted to just let it all out and let the audience decide what they were curious about and let them pick and choose what the film's about for them.
There's another section called Anything Helps about homeless youth. And it was interesting to watch it. I'm sure it's different for audiences outside of Sonoma County, but it was interesting to watch it and say, I know that corner.
Yeah.
I've seen a homeless person there before. I know where that is in downtown Santa Rosa. I know where that is in the town of Sonoma. And think about that from the perspective of someone who lives on the street.
And that was the intent when I made it then, definitely. I wanted it to feel very much like Sonoma County. When I moved here, Sonoma County is an older county, and I tend to hang around more with young people. So when I moved to Sonoma County, I noticed, this was 07, 08, that there was a lot of young skateboarders that were homeless. And so I was always approaching them or talking to them or whatever. I felt a real kinship to them because I skateboarded too as a teenager. And so both Matt and Kai, who were in that documentary, I became more close to Kai, but Matt, who you hear a lot in the documentary, I felt was like a kid that if he had a nurturing home would have been in like a Berkeley or a Stanford, like becoming a great writer, because when he told a story, the language he used, in the film he explained skateboarding, the sound of skateboarding wheels to the sound of a mother comforting her child.
Right. Yeah.
Like who but a great writer speaks like that?
I would go around to the parking garages and I'd skate down them because the sound of the wheels going down the parking garages and stuff on my longboard, it basically is like when you sit there and tell a baby shh, because it reminds you of like the calmness of the mother's womb and whatnot. That's basically what it is. It's a very calming feeling for me.
There's also brief images from the Black Lives Matter protests and the Andy Lopez shooting. Can you tell me about covering those?
Yeah, the Andy Lopez, I didn't cover really the shooting. I just covered one protest. And the only reason I covered it is because it was a big protest. I think it was the year anniversary or something in Santa Rosa. And I only did it because I was driving my kids to school.
Okay. Do you want to have some water? Are you okay?
No, it's it's a really important point because, that's really the beauty of photojournalism is you get to express how you feel.
Yeah.
And, I knew I was lucky. Yeah, my apologies for being so emotional.
It's super emotional. I have a stepdaughter who is about the same age as Andy.
That's it. I guess I knew that like there were parents that didn't have kids that they get to drop off for school. I did. So I was like, how can I just do that and just go home? So I grabbed my camera gear and I went down there and I covered the protest. And, I got good imagery so that the Press Democrat used them. But it really was just a response from a parent. I wasn't like a photojournalist. I was just a parent.
Erik Castro's documentary has been shown at various film festivals around the country, including at the Salt City Film Festival in Kansas, where he was overwhelmed by the response.
And then they called out the best picture of the festival. And when they called out for creating a photojournalist, I remember I couldn't leave my seat. I couldn't get up. Somebody had to like push me. I just couldn't believe it. I just felt this overwhelming sense of people get it. People really understand that this is a film about love, a film about empathy, a film about family. It works. And so that was amazing. And I'm just praying to God that one of the local festivals picks it up out here.
For now, the only way to watch Creating a Photojournalist is to see it at a film festival. You can trace the film's journey by following Erik Castro's Instagram account, which is linked in this episode's podcast. I'm your host and producer of this program, Michelle Marques. Additional editing by Noah Abrams. This show is a service of NorCal Public Media. Our president and CEO is Darren Lachelle.